Homeschool driver's education. Let's talk about it. By the end of this video, I will have made a confession and we will talk about driver's ed, and I'll give you some tips and tricks on things that you can do with your kids. Before I go inside, a confession. I got a roll through a red light ticket when I had all 5 of my kids in the car about 15 years ago. And I remember pulling up to the stoplight, glancing, the light had just turned red, and it was that hesitation between the red light and when the other traffic was gonna start going. So I made the decision to make the right-hand turn because I was late taking the kids to a class that they were gonna take. And lo and behold, the gentleman sitting at the red light waiting to go was a police officer. And woo, 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 I got myself a speeding ticket. In California at the time where we lived, instead of having the ticket be on my record, I was able to take driver's, traffic school. And so I went through traffic school talking with the kids about how the mistakes that I had made and the things that I was learning. And what I discovered was that traffic school was really helpful for me because I had been doing driving on autopilot for so long that I had gotten rusty or forgotten a lot of the rules of the road. And so I found going through traffic school as an adult to be highly valuable, so much so that I actually wrote to the governor of the state and suggested that they create a law or a mandate that drivers have to go through something like a traffic school every 5 or 10 years to brush up on their driving skills, because it sharpened me as a driver and made me more, it made me safer on the road, which makes you safer on the road. So that's my confession, and it'll bleed into why I'm going to share the next things that I'm going to share. But let me take this inside. See you in a sec. So inside my house right now, I have 2 teenagers that are studying for their driver's permit test. So this is very fresh and relevant on my mind. And driver's education, is one of those topics that I kind of have a strong opinion about because it has the potential to save lives if kids are educated better, if we do a more thorough job about teaching the kids the way that they should drive down the road. And I was thinking about this as I was driving home this morning, and why don't we do things like use driver's education guides as a reading material within our homeschool? And don't just jump off the video for a second, because this is very relevant. You will have your kids' complete and total attention if you're talking about things that they care about. So when I was 15 or 16 and I took driver's ed for the first time, I had this revelation. You know that terrible movie, what do they call it? I think it's Red Asphalt, where they show you real accidents and people with real injuries. And I remember watching that video, and I went home and I looked myself in the mirror and I went, you're not ready. You're not ready to have the responsibility of driving. I knew I would be a safe driver, but what I didn't like was the weight of the responsibility of knowing that I had control over the safety of other people on the road or other people in the car. And I'm still amazed that at 15 or 16 that I was able to make that decision, but I truly wasn't ready. And it wasn't until I was, I think, 19 that I invested in professional driving lessons, and I went back and I I spent hundreds of dollars with a calm-mannered instructor that taught me how to drive. And then I got my license then because I knew I was emotionally ready to drive. But with our kids, we can take a creative approach to teaching them all about the rules of the road by including it in our homeschool curriculum. And the way that you do that is you simply replace, don't add to, you replace their normal reading with going through the driver's education manual. And I think that I got so much out of redoing when I did traffic school that I think that this would benefit an entire family. There's no reason why a kindergartner can't learn the rules of the road or can't learn about all the different signs and things that they see as they're driving down the road. You know, you already do that. Green means go, red means stop, yellow means slow down. And you can point to street signs and teach them the way they should go. But you can also take it a little bit of a space at a time, like to maintain a safe distance behind vehicles, keep a steady speed, and signal in advance. And then it has a little bullet list of what you do: stopping, parallel parking, driving slowly, being tailgated, and it talks about different spacing. This is something that you could teach in a group, and then as you're driving, you can be doing what's called parallel talking as you're teaching these skills. So my tip for homeschool education when it comes to driver's education is that it becomes a family affair. And that's okay. I've got 5 kids. I have one that took on driving and studied and scheduled his stuff and got his license, and he drives better than everybody. The other ones needed extra time and care. And these are the things that your kids are going to be interested in. So invest into them by having the manual and studying and talking about these things to be family games or family reading time or part of your homeschool. This can be copy work. It can be science where you're talking about the distance that it takes to stop. It can be pre-reading, street sign recognition, and when you're looking at the different landmarks on the road. And it can be reading comprehension and just plain fun, because when we're fully invested in what our kids are interested in, it makes a huge difference. And now I have a game for you. Okay, the game is called Text Wars. Now, if your kids are in the room and they can hear you, mute and watch this later, or just put on the subtitles. And because the way that this game works, it needs the kids not to know the point of the game. So we live in everybody has a device in their hand technology world. And I'm guessing that now I'm not accusing you, but I'm guessing you've touched your phone more than once in the car. I know I certainly have, and I am constantly reminding myself it's not worth the 2 minutes, and I pull over. But texting and driving is a huge issue. Not even texting, but just looking at your phone. So the game is in the descriptions below. Now, if you're on Patreon, it's in your goodies because you get all these goodies for free when you are a patron on Patreon. But the way that Text Wars works is it has different stages to it. And it all starts with a game. Who can text the fastest? And there's different messages and different things, and you're timing and you're playing. And that's the whole first round. And then there's a take it outside round. And don't skip that part, because you'll do the science and figure out how far will your car go before it stops in 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds, etc. And now you're going to look at that text message and see how far it would take for your car to stop in the time that you sent that text message. So that 2 seconds or that 5 seconds that it took the kids to actually send a message suddenly becomes a very big distance on a football field or on your street. Worse is that if you're driving full speed, you can be talking about how far your car would travel. And so you start at 0 and then you walk how far you would travel at 30 miles an hour, 25 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour in that speed. And what that means is that that's how far you'll go where you're not looking at the road. It's a very sobering game that starts really fun, but it is very rich and very important that we play with our kids so that they understand 1 second is not just this much of the road. It's a huge amount of space on a driveway, and there may be things in the way. So play text wars with your kids. So that's kind of it about homeschool education when it comes to driver's ed. Make it a family affair. Do the reading and studying together. Do games. Make a memory game where you have printouts of the different signs and the kids are trying to find pairs of the different kinds of signs. Talk about the things that you forgot, that as you're going through the book, you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot about this law or this tip or this trick, or I've never seen this sign. Talk about it together as a family and take it outside. Play text wars together so that your kids can have that experience of what it means to text and drive and how far you go, and then make a commitment as a family to not touch your devices when you are driving, because it can be deadly. So anyway, homeschool driver's education. Make it a family affair. Have fun. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you have any other creative ideas? Because we like to learn from each other. And I will see you in the next video.